So I'm just going to share a brief testimony, very brief. Last week we talked about, or Ken taught about Thanksgiving and how it's the gate that we enter into his presence. Of course, Psalm 100 verse 4 says, enter into his gates with thanksgiving. So he mentioned you don't enter by intensity, you enter by orientation. So it's the heart posture and how we enter the gate. So the question I've asked myself even since then is, what if the thing we're asking God to do is waiting on the answer? So my personal testimony of this, and I hope it's an encouragement, I'll give two parts to it. I'll share a testimony of something that happened a long time ago, and then a more recent thing at the end. But we moved to Ohio. This was 13 years ago. We moved to Ohio, and I believe it was in the first year. No, it was within the first year. I'm not sure how early when we moved there. We were hit with a lot. We were paying 2 mortgages. Our house in Indiana had not sold. We thought it would sell like instantly, but the economy wasn't great at that time. The house didn't sell. We were renting a house in Ohio, so we were paying for that. Of course, I had moved away from the only home I'd ever known. I left all of my friends, with the exception of just like 1 or 2 families that came with us. I left all my family. Eventually, a sister would for months from that point. Of course, I still had a child. Kenny was 4.5 at the time, who had this ongoing issue, painful disease. Whenever you have ongoing sickness, you struggle with the idea that you're going to lose your insurance, and doctors and all of that caused incredible just turmoil in my spirit. As the caregiver, it was just weighed so heavily on me. Not only that, we decided, why not plant a church? I mean, that's why we moved there, but let's do it right away. Let's not settle or wait. Let's just jump on it. And of course, the Lord used it all, but it was, I had 3 little kids. Kenny was 4.5, Chloe was 2.5, and Park was 1. So we were just in the thick of it. And I found myself daily feeling feelings of anger, fear, complaining. Just a lot of that was just daily present. And I don't remember the exact moment, the timeline, but I do remember at some point, and I didn't really know to even look for the Lord's voice to speak in this way, but I felt the Holy Spirit say, why don't you stop asking me? Let's just try this. Was kind of like the thought that went, what if you stopped asking me things? Just thanked me. And I thought, the other way isn't working anyway, so why not? And I said it with not a great attitude. I was hurting. And the Lord gives so much grace, and he meets us where we are. I tell that to everybody, every mother who is struggling, every person that I get a chance to tell you do have. I feel like I fully believe it because I've lived it out. The Lord will meet you where you're at. And if you think that you have to follow someone else's lifestyle pattern, get up at the times that they do the things that they do, I just think, I don't even know why I'm saying this except to tell you that the Lord will meet you where you're at. And he wants to talk to you the way that you understand. And he wants to come into the time that all of us can look at our life and be like, well, I could probably give a little more. We can, but that's between you and the Lord. But comparing ourselves to what everybody else is doing and then shaming ourselves, living up to that expectation, place on ourselves, is just a weight that we would carry. Asking the Lord what's right for you is always important. So anyway, so I was there and I felt the Lord say that. I thought, okay, I'm going to do it. So I just decided to do only thankful prayers. Why a month? I don't know. I just decided I was going to do 30 days. That was the hardest thing. I'm serious when I say that. And I fasted before. I've done difficult things. That was one of the most challenging things that I did because I ran out of things so quickly. You begin your prayer time and you're like, thank you for the cross, thank you for heaven, thank you for provision, for the water under your breath. So I would go through all of the things that I knew and out so quickly. But I pressed in, kept going, and I thought, I'm going to stop doing this. I kept doing it. So I only did thankful prayers. I didn't for anything. At the end of that month, not only did I grow in things that I was facing, grew beyond just thinking on myself, which kind of surprised me. My prayers got longer. And I started to just see these things of the Lord that I really seemed to looked at, you know, just kind of skip throughout really my life because I wanted to start at the beginning. It wasn't just about what was in front of me, it was about what He's done in my life. So if I'm looking for things, so I did, I just went back further and I started to just kind of meditate on it. Sometimes it took longer than others, but eventually it became more natural. What I noticed at the beginning, though, was prayers really exposed complaint. And that was, I felt like a necessary part of the beginning of it. It exposed a lot of the things that I was struggling with. So once I got those out, I would say things like provision. Well, I wasn't really thankful because I felt like He really needed to provide more. And we were paying 2 mortgages, and why isn't our household? So I quickly wanted to go into, and also would you sell this house? And also would you meet our needs? And also my husband has and you wanted to go off. So it quickly, the first several things I would say I knew were exposed to my heart that I was struggling with trusting. With one, then as we uprooted all that and kind of spoke those out and got through that, then it became a journey of discovering things that I was take worship in, and it was very, very time. At the end of that month, I had actually a journal. I wish I had it today. I knew what was happening. Bear with me, because I'm not emotionally, but at the end of that, I had this whole journal. Plus, I had written. I probably had, at that point, just about all. And for whatever reason, we're going back to that book. And when I opened it, over those had like it blew my mind. It still does to this day. And I remember feeling like excited about those answers because I got to go. You know how you go through. You want to check cross these off, and I just didn't have that many cross off. More wasn't present, but like this, it's such a big way that I was in a way to meet, to see what, to even be free. So it's a whole journey and experience for me. But I went through and I was like marking them off. I couldn't believe how. And I remember feeling excited about the answers to prayer, but carrying like me, for whatever reason, that thought as it entered my spirit, it just changed, it shifted something in my heart. Now I didn't know what the next 5 years was. Oh Lord, that I was because life doesn't happen. Things keep happening. Just so first a beautiful journey, something just amazing. But it is a and laying down and laying down and I just remember that whole month being so just and I never did it again. Never, I shared this with my table last week. I remember thinking, why did I never like kind of make that a part of my prayer life? It doesn't have to be every month, but I never did it again. I went the next 5 years, 6 years, without ever just dedicating just the thankful prayers, despite the all the answers that I got. And I was kind of asking the Lord, I'm like, why did I stop, And as I was thinking about it, I thought of a couple things. I got to find my notes because I don't follow my notes actually. Eventually, I slipped back into fear, back into striving prayer, and back into complaining. And when I slipped back into those fear-based striving prayers, Thanksgiving prayers became difficult again. And it is work. And I didn't exactly want to pick that up because my whole life felt like work. And so that felt like one more area where I was going to have to work very hard. And I kind of picked back up some old habits of just trying to convince in my prayer time, trying to convince the Lord of why he should answer these. I did this for you. And these old lifestyle habits that we have. For me, it was just performing and striving and trying to earn his favor ran really deep with me. And so I kind of slipped back into that because most days, as weird as it sounds, that was a little bit easier. It was a little easier just to pray that way. It's a lot harder to focus on all the good things about the Lord when all the bad things are still happening in your world. So even after that month of prayer and answers, my current circumstances did not change overnight. The house did not sell the next day. That was not one of the things answered on that prayer list. Not the next day. Over the course of that year, the Lord proved miraculously in helping us being delivered from that house. And it was wild how it all happened. In the next house we got, that's a whole other story. But it was amazing how he did do that. But it didn't happen like right at the end of the 30 days. My child was still struggling with his skin issues, and there were several things that were not fixed overnight. So I think over time, it's easy to just go back into old habits and that just be like one moment. But, I when prayer stops being reaction and becomes an intentional approach is what Ken has been teaching on. And I realized I wasn't locked out of the gate. I just wasn't entering through it. So Thanksgiving doesn't earn access. It aligns my heart with what's already open. So that was the part that I failed to implement into my daily walk, right? So like I left that month of prayer. Those few little prayers that didn't get answered were big ones. I was still facing an ongoing illness. And so day after day, that started to break me down. And you forget that the access point is through that very thing that's difficult to do. And if you could just do that one thing first, your heart posture changes and the way you see that ongoing thing all of a sudden dramatically shifts. And the Lord was answering a lot of prayers through that. He brought us amazing doctors. He brought us a medication that he's on still today that was transformative for him. Was that the answer I wanted though? No, it wasn't. So I did not go to the Lord with that being gratitude. That was just a means to an end until I get my miracle. And that's just not how we're supposed to enter that gate. And I was learning that, and the Lord gives grace, and I'm so thankful for the grace. But that was challenging for me to remember, but also incredibly helpful. So I was thinking about, and I asked the Lord this question. I asked the Lord if complaining delays his promises. And I felt like he said, and I have to read it because I get all messed up here. Hang on one second. Lost my notes. I asked the Lord if complaining delayed the promise. And it made me ask the hard question. Does complaining delay the moves of God in our lives? And when I looked at scripture, I thought about the Israelites in the wilderness. In Exodus and Numbers, God delivered them miraculously. He parted the sea, he fed them, he led them by fire, list goes on. But they complained about the food, the water, the leadership, the land God promised. And what should have taken months took 40 years. So the promised land didn't move. God didn't change his mind. But their complaining revealed unbelief, and unbelief kept them from stepping into what God had already prepared. So I realized in my own life when I stopped praying thankful prayers, I didn't stop God from being faithful, but I felt farther away. And I felt like I had to strive again. And I slipped back into fear, like I had to convince him to move. So David talks a lot about lamenting. I do not feel like I was doing lamenting prayers. I wasn't praying the prayers of giving you my pain and then saying, but I trust you. I was like, this isn't fair. I don't like this. You should be healing. I work hard for you, blah, 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 without a, but I trust you at the end. So I was complaining, and it put my heart in a hard position where it was not open and it was not ready to receive what his answers were for the things that I was waiting for. And that just makes thankful prayers incredibly more challenging. So that was revealing to me. I felt like it changed a lot about how I started to approach the Lord in prayer. Complaining being something that I got rid of right away. And even though thankfulness is hard, I just did this with Claire the other day. And this isn't the story to share, but I'll just be done in just a minute. She was struggling with just her skin because they're different seasons. It's just more painful, depending on how the weather is and just what cycle it's in. And she was crying a little bit. And she's like, I just don't like it. I don't want it. Why do I have to have it? You know? And I was like, all right, Candace, you're about to talk on this. And Ken's been teaching on this. I should probably start with Claire and be like, hey, let's challenge ourselves to every day. Let's just thank the Lord for whatever you can think. And we're just going to pray that way for the next couple of days. And she lit up right away, you know? So I would say a prayer. I said, okay, your turn. I'm thankful for this. And then I would say one. And then we went back and forth probably 10 times. Oh my goodness. I wish I would have written down her final one. It was so moving. And I thought, the Lord teaches me so much through my kids. It's wild. I'm sure a lot of you can testify who have children. And it was just a beautiful moment of remembering who he is and why that verse is so important. Psalm 104, enter into my gates with thanksgiving. So it wasn't about the answers to prayer at the end of the month, right? But it was about his presence. And we made a connection in a way that I had not experienced up until that point. So the 30 days was just me getting rid of all the things that were in the way for me experiencing his presence. And I did get answers because you'll notice, I think it's, I can't remember the other verse. Philippians 4:6, with thanksgiving, present your request. So it's not that he doesn't answer them. He does. But it's a part of him that we get to know before we get the gifts, before we get the answers, before we get the words. So I'll end with this story because I thought this kind of, for me, it was encouraging as to why do I want to get to know the Lord this way? Why do we need to be intimate? Why do I need this relationship outside of I am called to do it and it's part of Christianity? Because on hard days, I think you need something to grab onto as to the why. Because otherwise it's a little easier to slip back into the striving and just the anger and all of those other very real feelings creep back in so quickly. So I told Kenny I was going to tell this story because this just happened this week. So Kenny had this book that he really, 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 really wanted. And I've been hearing about this book for a month, maybe more. Mom, can I have this book? Can I have this book? The book's like $15. So I'm like, we'll just wait, hang on, like, don't get it just yet. Actually, it wasn't quite out yet. The day it was going to be released was coming soon on Kindle or where he could order on Amazon and just like download it immediately. And so he's waiting for that day. So of course, Ken goes out of town and I knew the day was coming. Well, I go on Amazon and there is the physical copy. It's just released. So I know that he's got this basketball trip coming up. And I thought I'm going to buy that book for him. And I'm going to give it to him. And it's going to be this really sweet moment. And he's going to know how much I love him. And I cannot wait to do this. So I'm so excited. So this was on, I think, like, I don't remember the timeline, Thursday or Friday. His trip isn't until like the following Monday. So I order it like several days ahead of time. So I order it like on Friday and like Sunday, he's got his phone out and he's like, it's there. He's like, can I buy it? Can I buy download it right now? It's there. And I was like, no, I had already ordered the book. He didn't know I had already ordered the book. So he's got his phone out and I said, don't push that button. I'm like, Kenneth, you cannot buy that book. And he's looking at me like, what's your problem? It's $15, Like, you don't have $15? And I'm like, It's not about that, although maybe I do, maybe I don't. I'm not going to tell you because then you'll just ask for more. I said, so he's looking at me and he's like, please, mom. He's giving me those big, sad puppy dog eyes, like, come on, you know? And I'm like, so then I got kind of stern. I'm like, no. I said, do not hit that button. I said, you are not buying that book. Just wait. So he like let it go, but I could tell he was like so disappointed. He couldn't figure out why I would say no. So 2 days go by, I think, if I'm remembering right. I know the timeline's weird. So like 2 days go by. He's still like mulling this over, you know. And but I had already planned the day that I was going to give it to him because I knew his trip was coming and I wanted him to have something for this trip. So the day finally comes and I open the package, I pull out the book, I walk around the corner into the living room and he's sitting there and I hand him the book and his eyes just kind of look at me and I was like, I just want you to know how much I love you and how much I thought like having the physical copy on your trip would just be fun to have. And I just made it this big moment of like, I was thinking about you. I couldn't wait to give this to you, but I've been planning it. And he looked up at me and he's like, I really thought you were mad at me. I was like, what? What part of my face? And I really thought he could have read my face and been like, she has something planned, because I'm looking like, don't do it. Don't you dare do it. Like, surely he knows, but he didn't. He missed all of those signs. And he was like, man, I really thought you were mad at me. So again, the Lord is constantly teaching me about the Father and his love and how all that works. And I thought about that for a long time. And I thought, how many times where I'm like, Lord, I really, really, really want this. Can I just have it? Can I just have it? Can I just have it now? And I could have just let him click the button. Like, sure, go ahead, spend $15, get your book. But that takes away all of the joy out of me getting to go to him, surprise him, and then like tell him why I got him the book and how I'd been thinking about him and how I thought about he'll be going on this trip and this is going to make him so excited. He's been thinking about this for like a month and I couldn't wait to like deliver it to him. And I wanted to do it personally. And after I gave him the book, we sat on the couch for probably an hour and just talked. Presents. Like, I'm like, oh, that's presents. Like, the gifts are great, but it brings you into this presence. He set the book down long after I gave it to him, and we sat on the couch and just talked for an hour. Connected, just had a good time talking. And I thought, how many times we were like, Lord, let me just have it right now. Let me click. And I would have missed out on the joy. And he would have missed out on the joy, right, Kenny? It was just so joyful. He would have missed out on connecting with me. No, but seriously, like you miss so many parts of that connection when we just want it right now, don't want to wait for Simon, and don't really care why he's waiting. So that struck a chord with me. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna like, yes, I can go into Thanksgiving. These are the things I want. But if he doesn't do it right, then like he's got something planned. He's got something that he cannot wait to do because that is who he is. That is our Father. Like he loves us infinitely more than we could possibly imagine loving our own children. I don't know how that's possible, but that's what his word says. And so with that, like thought in my mind, it changed everything and how even thinking about why I would take the time and work hard, I'm pushing into Thanksgiving prayers. Like, why would I do that? Is it worth it? Yeah, it is. His presence is worth it. And it really has to be to pursue it because it is a pursuit. It is something that you have to work for and kind of make a part of your daily walk with the Lord. And it's an exciting journey. So that is my testimony about Thanksgiving prayers. I hope that it encourages you as we go into the workshop. So can I just pray over us? And thank you, Lord, for who you are. Thank you that you are faithful. Thank you that you hear us. Thank you that your presence is enough. Thank you that your presence is enough. Father, some of us are tired. And it's not because you're not moving, but we've been striving. So help us to enter again. Enter into the gates with our own thanksgiving right now. Not with intensity, not with fear, but with trust. Trusting that you're standing around the corner with that thing in your hand. And you can't wait to give it. You've been thinking about it. You always have us on your mind. You care about the birds. You care more about us. So I ask you, Lord, as we enter into putting this into action, that you would bring to mind things that we have just forgotten about or we've taken for granted or we've just lost sight of the many ways that you have provided, the many ways that you have healed, the many ways you've rescued, the many times your grace and your mercy were just overly extended. Father, help us to remember. Help us not to be like the Israelites, where we've seen you time and time again, and you're there waiting, but it's delayed because we just have been complaining. But you're there. You've never left. Your gate is unlocked. So, Lord, I ask you to bring us into that place. And as we go into the workshop, would your Spirit minister to every person here? Would you flow through every heart? Would you help us to see you with the eyes of our heart? And would you speak as we continue to just learn this part of you and how beautiful it is to sit in your presence, to feel your love, to feel your peace wash over us. In Jesus' name.